Welcome back, aviators, for another flight in the Southern California series. We're going to be departing once again from Montgomery Gibbs Airfield out to the coast, and then we're going to head northwards, going to cut inland a little bit, and then continuing traveling northwards up towards Hemet Airfield. We need to consider runway lengths for not only landing but also departure. So taking a look at the runways here, we know that the runways here in Montgomery Gibbs are quite large. We're more than likely going to be departing from 28 right, and we can see there's around 4,500 to 4,600 feet of length for the departing runway. While we're looking at this chart, we can go ahead and note some of the frequencies we'll need. Of course, we'll need the ATIS at 126.9. We're going to need to be able to talk to tower. That's going to be on 125.7. And then the ground frequency is going to be 118.225. Looking at the VFR map, of course, we can also get those same frequencies right here. We can see the C denotes the control tower, and that's going to be the 125.7. Here's the ATIS. So for this first leg departing out, it's going to be more or less the same. We're going to depart out to the west, and we're going to climb out of their airspace vertically. We're going to shoot to climb up to around 3,500 by the time we're getting to Mount Soledad. As we pass over Mount Soledad, get near to the coast, we're going to turn a northwards heading. We're going to shoot for the 3,500 so we can be above the lower leg of this Bravo shelf that starts at 3,200 feet and goes down to 1,800 feet. And we want to make sure that we remain below 6,800 feet, for that's the upper end of the Bravo shelf that extends up to 10,000 feet. So in this small little corridor here between 32 and 68, we're going to cruise directly through it. We're going to then be able to see the Torrey Pines golf course. We're then going to continue to travel northwards, passing the Del Mar racetracks. We're going to then see San Alejo Lagoon, and then around there we're going to get to the point where we can see the Batiscos Lagoon, and we'll be able to see Palomar Airfield. When we get there, we're going to be above their airspace of their delta, which extends from the ground up to 2,800 feet, though we're still going to stay out of their airspace laterally if we can. So when we start to see the lagoon here, we're going to go ahead and turn in eastwards, and we're going to hug the side of this Bravo. And what we're looking for next is going to be Lake Hodges. And if we know that we're going to keep Lake Hodges on our right as we're traveling to it, we know that we won't bust the Bravo airspace to the right, even though in reality it starts at 6,800 feet and we're not going to be traveling that high up. So as we travel towards Lake Hodges, the next thing we're going to be looking for is Escondido. But the thing that's going to be easier to see is this large highway here. We're going to look for Lake Hodges and then look for the highway. We'll see Escondido, and then we're going to want to follow this highway all the way up. And this highway is the 15. We can see that down here. And this 15 is really one of the major arteries that takes you from San Diego up northwards if you're going to LA or Big Bear or anywhere. So it's a road that is very easy to see from the sky and is very common to drive if you're in this area. So we're mainly, just to keep things simple, keeping this a VFR flight, we're going to follow the 15 northwards until we get to Temecula. But on the way to Temecula, we'll see this area that dips down between two mountain ranges that is called Rainbow. It'll be a visual landmark. I'll make sure to point it out. Though as you're coming through here and you see these two roads intersect, it's really between two mountain ranges. We're going to fly right between them. So as we cut through the small gap between the mountain ranges here, we'll come into Temecula. Temecula will be very easy to see. It's quite a large city. When we're coming through Temecula, what we're going to be looking for next is Lake Skinner. It's a smaller reservoir, though when we see it, we're going to know that's our cue to turn northwards, and then we're going to head towards the Diamond Valley Lake, which is much larger. There's actually a retaining wall on this side of the lake that's very easy to point out. When we see that, we're going to want to go ahead and start to configure to land, start making our radio calls to the pilot-controlled airport of Hemet Ryan. So taking a closer look at Hemet's airfield, we can see that they also have quite a long runway at 4,300 feet. So that should be plenty of room for us to land and take off. See, their runway is 23 and 05. Generally speaking, because the wind is more or less constant here, the best winds are going to favor us landing on 23. And in addition, I want to point out here, this is where we would go to make a rough calculation of the landing distance and the takeoff distance we need for a Cessna. This is the POH for the Cessna 172N model. We can see if we're more or less at sea level. Both these airports are around 1,000 feet to sea level. We can scroll across over here to the standard temperature conditions of around 20 degrees Celsius, and we can see that we need a ground roll of about 915 feet to be able to take off. And if we had to clear a 50-foot obstacle, we would need about 1,600 feet. So both of these runways we're taking off on have around 4,000 feet, so we know we should be a-okay when it comes to the distance required for takeoff. Now, taking a look at the landing distance required, the process is the same for a fully loaded plane with our landing speed of 60 knots. Looking over here at the 20 degrees Celsius, we can see that we're going to need about 530 to 550, so call it 540 feet for landing after our ground roll. And if we had a 50-foot obstacle we had to avoid for some reason, we would need around 1,300 feet, which is plenty for the runways that we have. The final things that we want to note for the Hemet Airfield are the radio frequencies and the elevation. We can see the elevation is here at 1,500 feet, more or less. We'll round up and call it 1,520. So we know the traffic pattern is going to be at around 2,500 feet for the airfield. In addition, we're going to have their AWOS, which is going to be their automated weather service, on 118.375. So we'll make sure to pick that up as we get close to the field. This is an uncontrolled airport, or some will call it a pilot-controlled airport. So there is no tower frequency, so they have their common traffic advisory frequency that we'll get on, and the radio calls will be just slightly different for landing at this type of airfield, where we'll have to call our downwind, base, and final. In addition, the other thing to note about this airfield is there actually is two runways. There's a smaller runway that is the 22 and 04, and we can see on the chart here, it's letting us know that runway 22 and 5 both have right patterns. So this is letting us know that if we are taking off on runway 22, we're going to want to make a right pattern around the airfield, as well as if we were taking off on 5, we would also make a right pattern to avoid the traffic from the other runway. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're more than likely going to land on 2-3, so we're also taking off on 2-3. This will allow us to think of it as your standard left traffic pattern for runway 23. One other thing to note that is very important for this airfield is we're going to get near some parachute jumping activity that is from ground to 14,000 feet. So we'll want to make sure that we stay away from that. But in addition, we can see on the map, we have some information here on how to contact SoCal to get information on if they are jumping or not. We will be flying this route using flight following, so we'll already be talking to March Approach at this point in time, or SoCal Approach. So we should be in contact with somebody that could give us information on whether or not there is parachute jumping in the area. So looking here at the nav log, just for a few quick pointers, we know that the trip's going to be around 43 minutes in length. It's going to be 71 nautical miles. We're going to need around 10 gallons of fuel just for the leg to get there, and that's okay because we know our plane has 40 gallons of usable fuel when it's topped off. First, we're going to start by heading out to the west, and then we're going to turn a northward heading as we go towards Palomar. When we reach there, we're going to turn eastwards. We're going to turn eastwards and head over to Lake Hodges, where when we get to the 15, we're going to turn north and head in a straight shot up to Hemet. We're going to aim to climb to around 5,500 because we're kind of slightly northeastward for a lot of the flight. So we'll use the odd 1,000 plus 500 for typical VFR altitudes to fly at. That should keep us well above any of the mountains or terrain we have to worry about, and should be a little bit smoother weather there. So we'll shoot for 5,500 for the bulk of the trip. All right, now that we've covered the flight planning, let's go ahead and hop in the plane, get started, and head on to Hemet. All right, let's go ahead and get our engine start checklist going. Our pre-flight checklist is complete. Engine start checklist. Chocks tie down, baggage door are checked. Seatbelt, shoulder harness are on. Passenger brief is complete. All right, carb heat is off. Check. Fuel selector is on both, and fuel valve is on. Throttle is going 1/8. Master switch coming on. Circuit breakers look good. Check. Beacon light coming on. ADS-B is on as well. Mixture is going full rich. Primer is in and locked. Propeller area is clear. Clear prop. Brakes are on hold. Magneto switch turned into start. Alright, and back to both. Throttle back to 800. Oil pressure is in the green. Check. Flaps are retracted and visually up. Check. Meter is also in the green. And now we'll go ahead and lean the mixture for taxi. Alright, before taxi, engine gauges are good. Check. Avionics is coming on. Transponder, we'll get that turned on, set that to 1200 for now. Nav lights, ADS-B are on. We'll go ahead and turn the Garmin's on. We'll wait for the Garmin's to warm them up. We'll click enter. Alright, we're good there. We can see it as our course plotted. We're at Montgomery. See, we're going up the coast. Then we're going to make our way up north to Hemet. We'll go ahead and copy the ATIS. ATIS is on 126.9, so we'll get that put on to comms number 2.
Montgomery Tower information, Oscar 215.
Oscar.
Wind 280 at 7. Visibility 10, clear. Temperature 23, dew point 6. Altimeter 2998.
2998. I'll set the altimeter.
Landing and departing. Runway 28 left. NOTAMs. Tower frequency for runway 28 right is 125.7. Runway 28 right. Runway alignment indicator for departing via Alpha.
Alright, taxi brief is complete. We'll go ahead and test the brakes.
Over to part 95469 at the Goodyear blimp with request.
Alright, brakes work. So we are currently at Kilo. We'll go ahead and taxi over to the hold short at Golf and get taxi instructions and flight following. Alright, we can see the tower from here. We're going to go ahead and make our radio call to them. Montgomery clearance delivery, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor with VFR request.
Here's 733 Yankee Victor, Montgomery clearance, VFR flight following.
Affirmative.
Roger. Actually, no 3 Yankee Victor, standby. Number 41 Kilo, you were given Charlie. You appear to have made a right on Alpha. You're taxiing on Alpha. What's going on?
Sorry about that. I was looking at my chart. I misread the taxiway. We can do a 180 if you want. Back Charlie. 7741 Kilo.
Number 41 Kilo, no, that's not necessary. Continue on Alpha. Cross runway 12 left at Alpha. Hold short runway 12 right at Alpha.
On Alpha, we'll cross 12 left and we'll hold short runway 12 right at Alpha. And again, I'm so sorry about that. 7741 Kilo.
So 3 Yankee Victor, go ahead.
I would like to request flight following to Hemet Airfield, cruising at 5,500, 3 Yankee Victor.
Sky 3 Yankee Victor, departure frequency 119.6, squawk 2360.
Departure frequency 119.6, squawk 2360, 3 Yankee Victor.
There's 3 Yankee Victor, read back correct.
2, 3,
41 Kilo, cross runway 12 right at Alpha, join Bravo to the ramp.
Alright, now we're going to switch over to ground. Over ground. Montgomery ground, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, holding short at Kilo with information Zulu, requesting taxi for departure, 3 Yankee Victor.
There's 733 Yankee Victor, Montgomery grounds, runway 28 right, taxi via Golf Hotel Alpha.
28 right, taxi via Golf Hotel Alpha, 3 Yankee Victor. Make sure taxi lights are on. Alright, so we just received our taxi instructions. Now we're going to taxi all the way down to runway 28 right. Before we approach the runway, we're going to do our run-up. But right now we are going to first taxi down Golf, and then we're going to turn right here to the right. And we're going to be on the long straightaway, and that's going to be Hotel. And we're going to follow Hotel all the way down to the end, where we'll then turn left onto Alpha, which will lead us to the run-up area for runway 28 right.
Ontario or Skyhawk 1107 Golf radio check.
Loud and clear.
Alright, ready for the run-up checklist. Fuel selector is on both flight instruments.
469 reporting midfield
set.
runway
Check.
24.
Flight controls are free and correct. Elevator trim is set. Mixture, we're going to go full rich. Throttle up to 1700 RPMs. First we'll check the carb heat for drop. Check. Alright, magnetos. Let's check the left. Both. Right. Both. Alright, good RPM drop. Vacuum, we have suction, check. Ammeter is positive in the green, check. Engine gauges are in the green, check. Throttle going back to 800. Mixture, lean for taxi. Nav and comm radios, we don't need ground anymore. We're going to need tower, so it's 125.7. And then the next frequency we're going to talk to is our departure frequency, 119.6. Montgomery Tower, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, holding short of runway 28 right, ready for departure, 3 Yankee Victor.
733 Yankee Victor, Montgomery Tower, runway 28 right, clear for takeoff, straight out departure approved.
Runway 28 right, straight out departure approved, 3 Yankee Victor.
St. Louis Tower, Bug Whiskey Romeo, holding short runway 29 ready for departure.
Looks like we're clear on short final.
015 Whiskey Romeo,
Runway
St.
items.
Louis Tower.
We got landing lights, strobe lights on. Make sure going full rich.
Left downwind departure approved, runway 29.
And double check flaps are up and fuel selectors on both. Look good. Alright, we're going to get lined up right here, and then we're going to go full throttle. Airspeed's alive. Rotate at 55. We'll climb at 70. We are in fact leaving the ground. So if you remember, they gave us clearance for straight out departure, which is exactly what we want. We're going to fly straight out over to Point Loma, which is a visual landmark that we can see. When we get to Point Loma, we're then going to turn to the right and head up the coast. Also, we're going to do our climb checklist. We have landing lights off, mixture is as required, and we're going to climb at 85 knots. Over to SoCal departure, 3 Yankee Victor.
4 straight out departure.
SoCal departure, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, 2,800 for Yankee Victor.
733 Yankee Victor, SoCal departure, rate of contact.
Set to 21 RPM, trim down a little bit, so we hold 3,500.
514, 7 Charlie Pop.
Okay, right in front of us is Point Loma, so we are at our first visual landmark. We go ahead and start our turn to the north.
Visual 6 is fine. 2998 and expect runway 6, 7 Charlie Pop.
Now as we head up the coast, the next visual landmark we're looking for is the Torrey Pines golf course. We should be able to see it pretty easily. It should be a bright green area in the sea of dusty brown that is San Diego. As we said, this area has a Bravo at 3,500 feet, so we want to make sure that we stay above 3,200 feet. And there it is, just abeam our wing, we can see the phosphorescent green grass of Torrey Pines. Now that we're at our cruising altitude, we want to set our power settings. So our altimeter is set, power setting's good, so we can go ahead and lean in mixture. There's the RPM drop, so we'll push it back in. We're going to stay on this course.
5 Gulf Juliet, contact Las Vegas, approach 125.02.
So you can see there's a Torrey Pines golf course. And just ahead of that, you can see the lagoon that heads to Solana Beach, but the visual landmark we're looking for is just on the other side, which is the Del Mar racetracks. We're leaving San Diego behind.
Las Vegas approach, November 425, Golf Gulf Juliet, 17.
And once we get to the Del Mar racetracks, we know we're clear of the Bravo. Also, just as a note, if you happen to find yourself flying in real life over in this area, you'll want to be careful of traffic that could be over the Del Mar racetracks. Lots of the San Diego flight schools use this area to practice their maneuvers. Well, we can see that's the Del Mar racetrack, so we're nowhere clear of the Bravo. So we'll go ahead and initiate our climb to 5,500 feet. So we'll go full power, trim up. $5,000. Power back to 2100 RPM. Trim down so we level out. And we can go ahead and start making our turn to the east. We turned a little bit early, but if we were to look out our left window right now, you would be able to see Palomar Airport, more than likely, as well as the Batiscos Lagoon, which is the visual landmark that was going to indicate that we were ready to make our eastward heading. We can also feel okay making this turn a little bit early because we want to be careful not to bust the Bravo. But the Bravo shelf that we are hugging up against right here starts at 6,800 feet, so we have a lot of room above us before we have to worry about the Bravo airspace.
Okay, left turn heading 270, 4,000 for 7 Charlie Bob.
And as a reminder, the next landmark we're looking for is Lake Hodges. We should see a rather large looking reservoir. When we pass Lake Hodges, that's going to be our indication that we're going to turn to our northward heading and continue northward up along the 15.
I started sending you for Chino for some reason. Yeah, that'll work. 5 Golf there, we have the field site. 5 Golf 2, approach 21 left. Clear visual approach 21 left, station 5 Golf Juliet. I cleared visual 6, 7 Charles left.
All right, I would say that's Lake Hodges straight ahead of us. So we can go ahead and speed this up a little bit and start our turn to the north. Looks like we're maintaining 5,500 well, and we're following our GPS course, following that purple or magenta line. Now that we're past Lake Hodges, the next visual landmark that we planned to use was the Highway 15 that you can see right here. We're going to follow the 15 north. It should take us past San Bernardino and then over to Temecula, which is the next big city we're looking for. As you can see, the 15 is really a great visual landmark to use because it cuts right through these mountains and you can really see it from about anywhere. And even if you get off of your heading or you aren't using GPS, you know it's going to take you right into Temecula. We can go ahead and tune in the ATIS for Hemet, so that's 118.375. So we'll do that on the lower radio. 118.375. Unfortunately, it seems like Hemet doesn't have an AWOS that is working right now, which can also be a problem in real life with this airport. It is a pilot-controlled airport or a unmanned airport. It's a non-towered airport, so sometimes you just have to work with what you get with these. So just below us should be the city of Temecula, or wine country they call it out here. Debatable.
Romeo Golf contact, SoCal approach 135.4.
135.4, 7 Romeo Golf.
3 Yankee Victor, radar surface terminating, squawk VFR, quick change approved.
Squawk VFR, 3 Yankee Victor. Alright, so we need to do a few things. Let's type in 1200. Now we're squawking VFR.
149 Charlie.
So you can see by the GPS we're coming up to our next visual landmark. There's actually two lakes up here. The first smaller one is the Lake Skinner. And then if we look just north of that, we're going to see the bigger lake, the Diamond Valley Lake.
Fly heading 270 and join Santa Monica to... Say the radial again for Monica.
Santa Monica 125 radio.
Join Santa Monica 50 radial and climb and maintain 4000 for Delta Sierra.
4 Delta Sierra, fly heading 270, join Santa Monica 125 radio.
Okay, so fly heading 70 and join Santa Monica 125 radial for Diamond 4 Delta Sierra.
Alright, so we just passed the Lake Skinner. And I think we're going to try to hold this altitude until we get up to the Diamond Valley Lake. So we'll climb just a little bit to get back to 5,500 feet.
Approach Sierra Center, Charlie Delta. We can also take vectors too if that's easier.
Was that for Cap?
Sierra Center, Charlie Delta.
I'm not supposed to give you that approach. That's supposed to be another sector, but we'll go ahead and do it from here. Clear direct cast to cross cast at 7,000 on Everly 6 approach.
Direct cast to cast at above 7,000, cleared on 6 approach. Sirius 149 Charlie Delta, thanks. The question, how does that normally work then? Do they have planes backtrack to the initial approach fix after they pass by it?
In this particular case, the Joshua approach has to work with Los Angeles Center for that approach, and they won't actually take you out to CASTA. That's just something they would never use.
Okay.
But they can get you over there.
So there is the Diamond Valley Lake. We're going to shoot for that top left corner, and when we get there, that's going to be our spot where we start to configure to land and start descending to traffic pattern altitude, which is 2,500 feet at Hemet Airfield. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull power back to 1700 RPM, thereabouts, and we'll start our descent. Also have carb heat out and turn on our landing lights just to get ready to land. And just about now is a good time to make a radio call, so we'll go ahead and let Hemet Field know that we're coming in to enter their traffic pattern. Hemet Field, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, approaching from the south, entering a left downwind for runway 23, Hemet Airfield. Alright, so looks like that's the airport just off our nose. We're a little high, so this is going to be a quite a fast descent. But we're going to try to enter the downwind for runway 23 at about a 45-degree angle. We still need to drop about 1,000 feet. Right there's 3,000. Just slide this on in. Alright, so the runway is just to our left. We can see it there. Pretty much already abeam our touchdown point. And we'll go ahead and put out 10 degrees of flaps. reduce power to 1500 RPM. Hemet Airfield, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, turning left base, runway 23, Hemet Airfield. Alright, that looks like about a 45-degree angle, so we'll go ahead and turn our base. Keep this altitude coming down, trying to bleed off some of this airspeed. Alright, let's keep this nose down, make sure we keep descending. Let's turn and look. There's the runway. Alright, Hemet Airfield, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, turning final, Hemet Airfield. 20 degrees of flaps. Turn final. This airport does have some PAPIs or VASIs. Forget which one these are called, but we'll look for those. Alright, 30 degrees of flaps. Looks like we're still a little high. Give it a little power, getting a little low now. Runway's made, so chop the power. Look down the runway. Oh. There we go, alright. Flaps up, carb heat in. Landing lights off. Taxi lights on, and we get a second, we'll lean for taxiing once we get off the runway. Hemet Airfield, Cessna 733 Yankee Victor, clear runway 23, Hemet Airfield. Alright, thanks for accompanying me today with this flight from Montgomery Gibbs to Hemet Airfield. I hope this was helpful and informative for you for your aviation adventures.